Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 2022 Annual General Meeting for the OAC. I'm just going to give it a couple minutes to let registrations kind of fill in because I know it takes a little bit of time for Zoom to kind of process everybody. I'll just give it a few minutes. I hope everyone was able to either squeeze in a little gym session before this, or if you're really lucky, a day outside. Because it was pretty nice out today. Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to kick things off. It's a little bit after 7, and we'll try and be snappy tonight so that everyone can either eat dinner or relax and enjoy the rest of your evening. But thank you so much to everyone for joining the Ontario Alliance of Climbers annual general meeting this evening. 2022 has been an interesting year. We've kind of started to get back to a little bit of the new normal, I suppose, after these past 2 years, and seen some really busy crags, which has been nice. And so we have a few updates here for everyone. We are going to start with the very formal portion of the annual general meeting, which is like our board member re-election of co-chairs, presentation of financials. And then we're going to go into the presentation of our OAC service award for the year, and then some Crag-specific updates and just some brief updates about the OAC generally, and just a quick mention of some ways that you can get involved, as well as a Q&A. So just some housekeeping. I'll just mention there is a chat function available if you kind of hover over the functionality at the bottom of your Zoom today. And you can use the chat to chit chat with your fellow participants and the panelists that are here today. And you can use the Q&A functionality to ask any questions. Please try to ask any questions in the Q&A because it's easy for us to miss what's in the chat. Like, I think my colleagues on the board do a really great job of trying to manage it all. But if you do have any questions, please like pop them in the Q&A and I'll do my best to take a look along the way, but it's a bit tricky for me to do that. So I think my fellow team members here will help. So with that, I'll just briefly give everyone a chance to do a bit of introduction. So you're joined today by the 6 board members of the OAC and a few of our very committed volunteers who are not official board members, but we work all very collaboratively together. So whether you're on the board or not, like, you know, that's kind of a formality because we really work as a very cohesive group. And so with that, I'll introduce you to our co-chairs and then pass it along to directors just to say hello and say a little bit about themselves. So Randy, do you want to just say hi?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining for those who are here. So my name is Randy Kilbashevich. I've been with the, sorry, I was just reading the message there. I've been with the OAC for over 10 years. I'm acting as co-chair along with Mike Penny for now, and I'm looking forward to tonight's presentation. Thank you.
Great. Mike Penny.
Hi, everyone. As you've already stated, Casey, I am Mike Penny. I've been with the OAC since, I think, 2016. Yeah, have been involved in lots of little projects along the way, but right now currently involved with Ontario Parks and trying to help make some headway in that direction. So looking forward to the meeting. Thanks.
Great. Pat.
Hi, Patrick Lam, and been a board member with the OAC for a while and just try to get various tech-related projects done for the most part.
Great. Mike Makachuk.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Mike Makachuk. I've been with the OAC for, let me see, approximately 4 years, I guess, somewhere around there. Yeah, been climbing in Ontario for quite a few years, and yeah, just love it here, and looking forward to next couple of years of doing some great things with everybody. Thanks.
Great.
Welcome for tonight.
Great. And I'm Casey Wilson. I've been with the OAC, I think for maybe 3 years now. I think this is my second year as a board member, possibly my third. Lost track of time. And I was a boulder up until about 2 years ago, and then started route climbing. So I've been traveling around some crags I haven't been to in a really long time, and it's been really nice. And I'll pass it over to Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I've been volunteering at the OAC since sometime in 2017. Been on the board for about 2 years now. And yeah, I tend to boulder indoors, but do ropes outdoors.
That's the same as me. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, with that, I'm going to pass things off to Mike Penny for the formal portion of the meeting, the very exciting script reading that we do every time we have this AGM. That's a necessary part of the meeting. So with that, Mike, I'll pass it to you.
I'm not sure why I always get stuck with the boring parts, but we'll just move on and try to get through it as best we can as a group. So I'm going to go through a couple things, sort of a script, and there will be some portions along the way, or some opportunity along the way for those of us attending to respond if necessary. But otherwise, we'll make it through, and then we'll get to kind of the meat and potatoes of the AGM. So forgive the formality, but good morning, or sorry, good evening, fellow climbers. As I've already introduced myself, I am Mike Penny. I'm the director and co-chair of the board for the Ontario Alliance of Climbers. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome you to the 11th annual general meeting for members of the OAC. We have a short formal agenda this evening, followed by some updates and a Q&A session. And I am now going to call the annual general meeting to order. I will act as chair, and Jay Aurora will act as the secretary of the meeting. I will also appoint Casey Wilson to act as scrutineer of the meeting. And if you don't know what scrutineer is, you can Google it. The notice calling this meeting was sent to each director and member of record of the OAC by email on October 25th, 2022. There are present in person or by proxy at this meeting 5 or more members. Accordingly, quorum is present and the meeting is duly constituted for business. To expedite the formal part of the meeting, I will ask that members hold any comments on general matters until the Q&A period at the end of the meeting. However, if there's any comments specific to the motions prior to the votes, members should feel free to make their questions or comments, bring them up at the time. I have the meeting minutes from last year's annual general meeting, and these can be examined at any time. We can certainly pass them out as well afterwards. Unless there is an objection, I will dispense with the reading of the minutes of last year's minutes, and I'll pause and I'll wait.
We'll dispense with the reading.
Great. Okay. So the first item of business is the presentation of the OAC's 2021 audited financial statements. Copies of these financial statements are available for members who would like a copy. We have made a link to the financial statements available in the chat, and I'm hoping we can do that. If not, we can certainly follow up with anyone who desires afterwards to provide those copies. Did we have a desire by the group, and this is not part of the formal portion of the meeting, to actually go through the financials? If there is any desire by the group or by members that are part of this call, we can certainly do that. We do have Matthew on the call who is available to go through the financials. If not, we can certainly make, as I've stated, the link available.
I think we're probably Typically, I think we just make the link available, perhaps. So that might be the best course of action. I'm not sure if we've actually made the link available yet, but I'm sure we can do that.
I can make the link available, but I think
Okay.
we should have a 2-minute summary of the financials. It's part of our fiduciary duty, so we should do that.
All right, is Matthew prepared to do that?
Yep, I am. I'll take over the screen share if that's okay, Casey.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to stop sharing. I hope I can allow you to share.
Oh, host is disabled screen share.
Yeah, okay. Give it a shot. See how
Yeah,
that goes.
Says host is disabled screen share.
Oh, okay. 1 second. Here we go. You can share hosts and panelists. Okay, there you go. Over to you.
There we go. Okay. Sorry, just 1 second. It's the first time I've screen shared with Zoom. It might take.
That's okay. In the meantime, I see that Jess has uploaded a little definition of what the scrutineer is. A scrutineer is a person who observes any process which requires rigorous oversight. So formal.
Casey, would you actually? I've sent you a copy of the financials, right? Would you be able to pull it up on your end? Just
I can try. I can try. Are you having trouble screen sharing?
Yeah, it's saying I've got to restart my Zoom to do that.
Oh gosh. Okay. That's tough. Pat, do you have it in front of you? I feel like I'm gonna lose my let's just see.
No, I don't have it. I'm still
okay.
trying to find the actual financials link, so I'm gonna
Oh, okay.
in the
hold
chat as
on.
soon as I can do that.
Let's see. Sorry, apologies to the group. This feels okay. Okay, so which document do I need to be?
If you're looking at the email, it's the second document in the email I forwarded to you from Rima. I'm also sending out an email to the board right now.
I've got it.
Financial statement, is that what I'm looking at?
That's the one, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, give me a second. I hope I can share this properly. Give me a second. I'm sorry. I feel terrible. We're disrupting the meeting flow with this.
It's all right. Just download it first if you have to.
Okay. Okay, 1 moment. Almost there. Okay. It's not wanting to load for me quite yet.
Do you want me to do it?
Do you have it in front of you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, hold on. Hold on a second here. Oh, are you? Oh, okay.
Hold on. There we go.
Oh,
Keep things open.
there we go.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about the interruption.
That's okay.
So for anyone that's joined our AGM in the past, you'll know that we solicited an independent auditor's report every year, just to make sure that we're, upholding our fiduciary responsibility to our members and the people donating to us. You can scroll down a little bit, Mike. The first couple pages are just kind of a boilerplate of what's the purpose of this report, and I guess background of our relationship with the accountants providing this report. So getting into the meat of it here, you can see we have had a decrease in our net assets over the previous year. For our assets, we've had a decrease of roughly $9,000, but also a decrease for liabilities around $6,000. So on balance, we have seen a net loss of roughly $3,500. That's right about where Mike's mouse is hovering now. We can go to the next page down. So we have seen a slight increase in revenue over last year, roughly $1,000 more. This is mostly due to us having about twice as much revenue and donations. So thank you to everyone that's donated over the last year. We also have seen a decent amount higher expenditures, a total of $10,000 in expenses over $6,000 the previous year. I believe you'll notice the office in general is a little bit higher. I believe they've classified the porta potties at Metcalf as office in general. So that's the explanation for that. You can probably scroll to the next page there, Mike. And this is basically restating kind of the same thing on the first page, like the difference in our cash year over year. So you can see right at the top there, our deficiency in revenue over expenditures over the last year is 3,654. That's a little worse than last year. Last year we about broke even with a loss of 645. We could take a look at the last page as well. So this is a little bit more boilerplate, just about basic representation, like sources of our revenue. Last page here, just that the auditors have, next one up from the last page, actually, that they've found us to not be at significant risk for loss of liquidity or significant credit risks. Now, I don't want to take up too much time with questions right now, because I know this is the boring stuff, but if anyone does have any questions about anything in this report, or if we're not able to make the link work and someone would like a copy of this report, you can email me at treasurer@OntarioAllianceOfClimbers.com, and I'll do my best to address any questions you have.
Great. And I think Pat and Jess were maybe able to make the link available on the website. So if you do want to review the financials, you can view the link in the chat and access them there. And then, of course, ask Matt any questions you might have. Okay, I'm gonna go. I think, Mike, do you need to finish the formal portion
I do.
of the meeting?
Yes, I do. Yes. All right, so we're gonna move into the election of directors. So 3 directors are to be elected at this meeting today. I would like to make the nominations. I will make all the nominations that the board is aware of. I would like to nominate Randy Kilbasevich. Sorry, Randy.
Did I get it? Kilbasevich? Kilbasevich.
Perfect.
It sounds right. Yeah. I'll never get it right. In any case, so Randy, Patrick Lamb, and Mike Makashuk. If you say it fast, you can't tell that you're not saying it right.
Nice. Patrick's is a giveaway.
So I'd like to nominate all 3 to serve as directors on the OAC board. The 3 directors elected will hold office for 2 years or until their successors are elected or appointed in accordance with the bylaws and the Corporations Act. All of these nominees are qualified to be directors under the bylaws and have consented to act as directors. Are there any further nominations from the attendees that are here today? Okay, so as there are no further nominations, I will declare the nominations closed. May I have a motion that these 3 nominees be elected as directors of the OAC?
Yes.
I think you need to say, I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Perfect. May I have a seconder? And they say, I second the motion.
Ken Chase is seconding.
Perfect. Thank you, Ken.
Thanks, Ken. You're the best.
The bylaws provided for voting by a show of hands. Since we are meeting by teleconference, I will ask for any objections or abstentions, and I will wait. All right. I declare the motion carried.
Great.
The bylaws and the Corporations Act of Ontario require that any chair be elected by the members by special resolution. The board has proposed that Randy and myself be re-elected as co-chairs of the board. This motion must be passed by special resolution. That is a resolution passed by at least 2/3 of the votes cast in this meeting. May I have a motion for the special resolution of Randy and myself as co-chairs?
I will make the motion.
Thank you, Pat. May I have a seconder?
Jeremy for the second.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeremy. I will now call for a vote on the motion. The bylaws provide for voting by a show of hands. Since we are in a meeting by teleconference, I will ask for objections or abstentions, and I will wait. All right. I declare the motion carried. Appointment of auditors. The next item of business is the appointment of Peters Brown LLP as OAC's auditor. Peters Brown LLP, is the OAC's current auditor. Can we have a motion to appoint Peters Brown LLP as auditor for 2022 and 2023?
I'll put forward a motion for that.
Thank you. May I have the motion seconded?
Joe
Someone was
Palma
ready.
with the second.
Thank you.
I like it.
I will now call for a vote on the motion. Since we are in a meeting by teleconference, I will ask for objections or abstentions, and I will wait. All right, I declare the motion carried. We're getting there, folks. Okay. The next item of business is a motion to amend the OAC's bylaws. We have been using emergency permission granted by the province of Ontario to have members' meetings by teleconference during the pandemic and would like this option permanently. I think we already did this, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know that we need to do this again.
I think we did that last year. I think we're good
Right.
now.
Okay. Is there any other business to be brought before this meeting? And I will wait. Okay. That then concludes the formal part of the AGM. Thank you for attending. May I have a motion for this meeting to be terminated? I'm waiting.
Yes, let's turn. I move that we terminate this meeting.
May I have a second? May I have a seconder?
I second.
Perfect. We can now move on to the next portion of the meeting, which is a lot less formal. Thank you for enduring that.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mike, for facilitating that thrilling portion of our OAC annual general meeting. And we're thrilled to move on to a more exciting announcement, which is the award for our service award for the Ontario Alliance of Climbers for 2022. And we are very excited and happy to give that award to Josh Layte-Jammu. Josh has been our board treasurer, for the last 2 years, I think. 2 years. And he's finally, as of now, just been like relieved of his official duties. He did a really great job and has given a lot of time to the OAC, helping do the things that the rest of us are really terrible at. And so we're very grateful, Josh. So thank you very much on behalf of the board and on behalf of the climbing community. Thank you very much for your time. And we're very happy to also be passing the baton of treasure on to Matt Gleason, who I think everyone saw during our last meeting as well. So Matt, thank you for filling Josh's shoes. And Josh, thank you again for your time with us. We hope that we still get to see your face, at meetings from time to time and in and around some cliffs. All right. And with that, we'll move on to just a couple brief OAC updates in general. We had some questions this year about a few things, and one of those was the ongoing discussions that we've been having with Ontario Parks, and those are in very early stages still, but I guess Mike, Penny, maybe I'll just pass it to you briefly just to talk at a high level about those discussions.
Sure, and Randy can feel free to pipe in and correct me or layer on as he so chooses. So we have had a relationship with Ontario Parks for, I want to say, about 14 or 15 months now. We are in the very early stages. I know that sounds like a decent amount of time, but we are in the early stages of educating each other, helping Ontario Parks understand a little bit more about climbing, helping us understand a little bit more about the pressures and the objectives of Ontario Park to manage their properties. And we are working now in the background with Ontario Parks on a monthly basis to create what I would call a framework or an understanding in terms of what we want to get out of this relationship. Ontario Parks recognizes that there are some pretty spectacular properties where climbing exists today and is a big opportunity for climbers to enjoy in the future. Unfortunately, from a legislation perspective, we don't have climbing in the right place. I think that we would all, as members of the OAC, would want to see it. But the good news is that Ontario Parks recognizes that there's probably a path forward where we can work together, and we've shown that. I wouldn't say we so much, but climbers have shown that with the efforts of the ACC as it pertains to Bon Echo, where we can have a great relationship with Ontario Parks, and we can recreate there sustainably. So I'll leave it at that. But we're working through our relationship, educating each other, and trying to build some trust and some momentum, so that we can move together in a positive direction.
Great. Randy, feel free to pipe in if you so desire. The other piece, just in terms of OAC general updates, is just the Beaver Valley Climbing Festival. We had quite a few inquiries as to whether or not it was going to happen this year, and we did not have the capacity internally to be able to plan it. And there were still questions about, the state of the COVID pandemic and, securing a venue for it and whether or not people would be comfortable with it. But, our feeling is that next year is probably a good time to bring it back, and we would love to bring it back in full force. So if you are excited about the Beaver Valley Climbing Festival and you'd like to get involved, we would be looking for a volunteer, for a committee of volunteers to help make it happen next year. I see the question about the potential date, and I would say that's on the table for the committee to plan. So if we get people who are excited about it, then you know, it's really going to be up to that team to determine how much time they need and, you know, if we can secure a venue for when we want it to happen. But I think it would be just awesome to bring everyone back together. I myself have not ever actually made it to a Beaver Valley Climbing Festival, so it would be kind of cool to see. So yeah, I think it's something that we would be thrilled to have, you know, brought back to life, and it would be great if there were people who have the capacity to take it on. Randy, you've raised your hand, so go for it.
I just wanted to circle back to the conversation with Ontario Parks, and I mean, I noticed that we don't have a huge turnout at this AGM, unfortunately, but I do see some names who are some longstanding climbers in the community, and there is going to come a time where we're going to have to lean heavily on those people who have influence within the climbing community to rally the troops, as it were. And I think that we are at some point going to have to reach out to our local constituents, be that MPPs or the relevant ministry. And at that point, the support of those individuals is going to be paramount. So just wanted to mention that. It's just something that will happen in the future. There's no set date, but you know, again, I think having the longtime climbers in Ontario support that initiative is going to be absolutely important.
Yeah, agreed. Thanks, Randy. Okay, so I guess just to close up on the Beaver Valley Climbing Festival, if you're interested in getting involved, please reach out to us at our info address and let us know. We would love to start forming a committee to work towards planning for a 2023 festival. Preferably not in early August because I will be in Squamish, but any other time would be awesome because I would love to be there. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to some Crag-specific updates, and I know this is the part that a lot of people are very interested to hear about. Certainly on this call, we'll have a lot of climbers, but we also have people who are land managers, landowners, potentially private homeowners who live adjacent to various properties who would be joining this call and listening in on these updates. So this is something that, you know, we like to try and provide as much info as we can and answer any questions. So if you have questions in the chat, please, or sorry, in the Q&A, please pop them in there, or and we'll do our best to try and address those. The first update I'll give is with regard to the Niagara Glen, and Ali on the Cabe, who I'm not sure if he's on the call this evening. I don't think he's able to make it, but he is doing a great job taking over the Niagara Glen portfolio and has been working to develop really great relationships with the NPC. And we've had some discussions with them, with the Niagara Parks Commission over the course of the summer, just regarding a few concerns that have kind of popped up with just, it's really just a matter of volume. Like there's so many climbers now at the Glen that there's just some issues that come up, which is very natural. Like we see the same kinds of things happen when there's, you know, a plethora of hikers visiting an area. You know, you tend to see issues with etiquette. In the case of bouldering permits, like we've seen some people who are visiting the Glen without a permit, either because they just didn't know that they needed one, or they got there and the nature center was closed and whatnot. And then spider trails, which like we're very aware is mostly happening because of hikers who are lost. You know, most climbers have a guidebook and know their way around pretty you know, pretty well. So but we have had some discussions with the NPC about that, and just want to raise some awareness about making sure that, you know, we're sharing the space, and remember that there's, you know, there's families there and other people who are trying to enjoy nature and the sounds of nature. And so, you know, it's really not to be treated as like your outdoor gym or your personal home wall. Like we really need to remember to like keep the noise to a minimum, keep your belongings collected to minimize your impact on the space, and also share the space you know, with those around you, and to be sure that you have a bouldering permit. Ali is working on planning a bouldering competition in the Niagara Glen next year, which is like super interesting. And if you want to participate, you will need to have a valid permit. So that's something to keep in mind. And, you know, you're not legally allowed to climb there without a permit. So we do need to make sure people have them. And the NPC has been doing a bit more monitoring and enforcement of permits. I see a question just about changes with the Glen regarding top out. So there hasn't been a change with regard to top out rules in the Glen, but this is admittedly, the NPC would agree with this. This is something that's been a little bit of like a kind of, not necessarily a gray area, but the rules have been a little bit unclear at times. So the rule has always been no vegetated top outs. So if a boulder has vegetation on top, then you're not to top it out. However, we've been in talks recently with the Niagara Parks Commission because Ali is also working with the team with my former counterparts on the Niagara Glen guidebook update, and that's going to include some more clear guidelines about topping out. Because there are cases where like you just have to top out a boulder because it's safer. So, you know, we can't have people like risking injury in the event of like a poorly executed top out. So, you know, we are having to kind of go through that discussion with the NPC right now, just to kind of make some more firm guidelines about it. So right now, like really there aren't a lot of boulders that you actually do top out in the Glen. Like a lot of them are drop downs. Because there is a lot of vegetation and frankly poison ivy on top of a lot of these boulders. So I would say again, like in the interim, without tighter guidelines, like when in doubt, don't top it out. Of course, barring any significant safety issues. So I know again, that's a little bit unclear perhaps, but it's the best I can give at this point. The rule has always been no vegetated top outs, and we'll just leave it at that for now until we get some firmer guidance and agreement with the NPC on that. So thank you for the question. And as I said, there is a guidebook update in progress. So that will be a long time coming. I can tell you, having worked on the first draft or the first issue of the guidebook. And so I'm sure that will take some time, but Ali's posted about the guidebook update in the Niagara Glen conditions page. And if you have questions there or suggestions, they've, made a post just to welcome any feedback anybody has. The next thing I'll touch on is Camden. So this is just getting like more and more exciting all the time. And Dustin isn't on the call with us today, but Dustin Jewel Johnson, as most people know, has been the portfolio manager for Campton and doing a phenomenal job of working very closely with the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, who are very excited to welcome climbers. Like they have seen the success of the program that is in place at the Glen, and they're excited to replicate that same success. And they know that climbers are some of their best advocates and some of their, best ambassadors in terms of park users. So they have continued now, and they'll be actually reviewing a draft climbing management plan on November 14th next week. So it's pretty amazing to have come this far. Like it seems like this work started years ago, and it did. And that's just the nature of access work. It sometimes can feel frustrating that it moves so slowly, but that's just the nature of getting good climbing management plans in place and doing the necessary work to get there. But the NPCA has been just phenomenal to work with. They're a great group of people. I know Dustin's really enjoyed his time working with them, and we're thrilled that we've finally come to this place where, we're reviewing actual plans. So it's pretty awesome. Okay, so the next portfolio is just Conservation Halton. I just wanted to address this quickly, and Randy, please raise your hand if there's anything you wanted to add. We have had questions just about the 2-hour booking requirement, and I know people have had some frustration about that and whether or not it actually facilitates, a full day of climbing. Conservation Halton doesn't have any plans to remove the 2-hour booking requirement at this time, and they're treating all park users the same. Everyone has a 2-hour booking requirement, and I know that is, maybe more challenging for climbers just because of the nature of the activity that we're doing in their parks. But we've asked to be treated equally, and here we are being treated equally. So at this time, like, we kind of gotta, go with what we got. But on the bright side, we have been told that, like, we're okay to book slots back to back. Oh, so Ken, thank you. I see you're saying they're defaulting to 3 hours Monday to Thursday. So if you're able to get out during the week, then do so, and you can get a bit of a longer booking. But my understanding is that back-to-back bookings are still accepted. So, and I'm not seeing Randy raise his hand, so I'm gonna move on to Crag. So Crag, this has, again, like, land ownership at Crag has always been something that has been difficult to pin down. We have done quite a lot of research in the back end to try to understand the formal property lines. And there is a homeowner who lives adjacent to the cliff who has been claiming that they are the landowner of the cliff itself, but they have not been able to produce any evidence of such. And any research that we've done into the property lines does not indicate that that landowner is also the owner of the cliff. So it's difficult for us to kind of pin that down. But
do we want to just, sorry, Casey, do we want to just mention that there was a climbers trail that did cross that homeowner's property, and we should not be using it?
Yeah, so there was originally a trail that cut off of the Bruce Trail road allowance. So when you drive to the end of Dublin Line, you're gonna see, again, informal signage that was created by this homeowner who is attempting to dissuade people from using the Bruce Trail road allowance, which is completely legitimate for people to use. The trail heads up the hill, and about maybe halfway up the hill, just before halfway perhaps, there was an informal trail that went off left into the forest and cut through to the base of Crag. That trail did, from what we can see, travel onto that landowner's private property, and therefore that was trespassing. Now that has since been abandoned, and to my knowledge, I don't believe anyone is using that trail anymore, thank goodness. Like, and that's a great adjustment that everyone made. So the actual access is all the way to the top of the cliff and along the trail, and then the descent through the gully at the top of Crag. And that's totally fine. So that does not touch private property, and you're completely fair to use that trail. Again, Crag access status, we'll say, is unknown. And so, it is not an officially open area. It's not officially closed. The land ownership is ambiguous. But it's just important that people, if you are heading to that area, that you are not using that trail that cuts into the forest partway up the Bruce Trail road allowance. Okay. So the golf course. So Alex, trying to see your question, just asking if the golf course has allowed people to park there. I think you're referring to the golf course at the base of the cliff, which would be the Granite Ridge Golf Course. And there's another one that's a little bit earlier, and that's a no. I contacted them personally and asked them about allowing people to park there. But they weren't against the idea, but the problem for them is that they couldn't allow it because a good day for golfing is a good day for rock climbing. And so, they need those spots to be available for their members. And so they just were not able to provide any additional spots for climbers to use. But so long as you are parking with your tires off the road at the end of Dublin Line, you will not, should not receive a ticket of any kind. So you are completely fair to park there. And I would say if anyone has an encounter with anyone who is accusing them of trespassing, I would ask that individual to produce documentation of their ownership of the land and connect with the OAC to discuss, because we, in our research, have just not found that to be the case. Again, like, we understand that there are a lot of people who own properties adjacent to lands on which people recreate. But, you know, we need to remember that these are public land, you know, some of these are public lands. In some cases, you know, like, especially in the case of it being a public park, like, you have every right to be there, and you are not required to answer to a private landowner who lives adjacent to a property. It is not their job to manage the property. They do not have enforcement abilities on that property. And so if you ever have issues like within your own, you know, with what you feel is reasonable in terms of your own safety, like, you do not need to engage with those people. So I'll just leave that at that. I'm going to move on to the turtle. And this is a case of a private landowner who is really quite happy with how climbers have been behaving on their property. We've been really grateful to have the turtle allow climbers to continue to visit their private property. And they've been really thrilled with how the permit system has been working and the etiquette of climbers visiting the area. So I think on behalf of everyone at the board and, you know, and the landowner, will just say, like, thank you so much to everyone who's been visiting and booking their permits. And, you know, keeping the noise to an absolute minimum, and keeping the area clean and leaving no trace. Like, it's just been working really well. We've, you know, I think the turtle has come a long way from its initial opening, where, you know, we kind of realized there was a course correction needed, and we, you know, we shut things down, and then came out with this booking tool that Pat was able to create, and it has really made an enormous difference at the turtle. So thank you to everyone involved. Like, thank you, Pat, for setting that up, and thank you to Mike Sheehan for being there with, like, his boots on the ground, helping to kind of encourage people to make sure they have their permits. You know, and to, again, to the landowner for allowing us to be there. This is just like such a great example of, you know, climbers respecting a space and a way that, like, climbing can happen on private property when it's managed accordingly. So it's just awesome. Did someone want to add something? I thought I heard a microphone pop off. Nope. Okay, great. The next update I'll give is just about Eugenia Falls. And again, like, I'm trying to hustle through this. I know it's probably a late evening for a lot of people who maybe have kids or, you know, something to get to in the morning. So thanks for sticking with us. Just a quick update about Eugenia Falls. So we did actually, Dustin was able to attend the Eugenia Falls meeting that happened on November 5th. So Eugenia Falls is currently closed to climbing. However, the team there, led by their site manager, Rebecca Anthony, did present a draft management plan on Saturday. They have a lot of planned infrastructure updates, including like a new bridge and parking lot improvements. So it'll be a great area to visit as a hiker, just visiting and enjoying the park. However, climbing was suggested as an activity by the community, and there are currently no plans to allow people to get to the base of the waterfall and therefore to the base of the cliff, which means no climbing access at this time. So just in case people were wondering about what occurred during that meeting, we thought we would include an update here, and certainly, like, we'll continue to try to build a relationship with their team and see how things go. But for now, that's the update. We just wanted to share that information here.
Yeah, I would just add for Eugenia Falls, there is a pretty strong local desire to have that area open to climbing.
Mm-hmm.
We have some friends, some climbers that are even have been recently elected, to the local council. So there is I think this is an area where you know, if we can work with Rebecca and her team, maybe we in the near future or the not so distant future can see that area open to climbing in a similar fashion to what we see today with Old Baldy.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Okay, Metcalf. So I know during one of our earlier meetings this year, we had mentioned the prospect of a parking lot expansion at Metcalf, and this is something we still very much want to pursue, but at this time we're currently holding because we've heard rumors that there's another group that might be a little bit, they had started this process of, you know, an environmental assessment and whatnot for the purpose of a parking lot expansion and then put it on hold. And so we're actually just waiting because we've now heard that group who was kind of partway through the work already, maybe resurrecting that work. So we're on hold with it, but it's still very much something we have our eyes on. And then porta potties, a really awesome subject that Mike Makashuk has been leading at Metcalf and organizing for us. So there's still porta potties in place on behalf of or provided by the Ontario Alliance of Climbers and your donations as well. So porta potties are in place until November 30th, I believe. Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And they will be returning in May of 2023. However, if we find we're having a really early spring, we'll probably work with the provider to see if we can get them brought there earlier. I know this year our climbing season didn't start, I think, until like the end of April, where the previous season I know I was climbing outside almost in March, perhaps. So you know, there's a possibility that it could start earlier than May, but for now they're there till November 30th, hoping we get a few more unicorn days, and then they ideally will return, you know, ideally they'll return in March, but probably April or May. So it's a long winter ahead of us, but we'll get there eventually. The next thing is Devil's Glen. So I know, again, this is a portfolio that has a lot of eyes on it, and we get a lot of questions about Devil's Glen often. So at this time, there is no change to the climbing access status at Devil's Glen. It is still a tolerated activity, just like many other unlisted activities that are allowed to take place in the park. It is a non-operating recreational park, so there is no like formal, the only formal things I think they say are allowed is like hiking. So there's no change to climbing access. It's still considered tolerated. I did just think it was important to mention a safety reminder. Like if you are visiting Devil's Glen, just be aware that like you have your belongings in eyesight and that, you know, you're not leaving things you know, anywhere and keeping them, you know, in close range, because there has been mischief occurring where backpacks have been stolen and relocated off trail, etc. So, you know, do keep that in mind. And you may have noticed that new no parking signs were placed this year on concession 10, and that's really just intended to allow farmers to get by with very large equipment near the intersection of 124. So I'll also remind people, because like I know when I've been there, like I've seen it a couple times where people are parking really close to the intersection. It's like you're actually not legally allowed to do that, so you really shouldn't be parking there and you could be ticketed. So just make sure you're parking up the hill on concession 10 past those no parking signs if you are parking on concession 10. And you know, I will say, like, we do expect some of the mischief that occurred last year to continue occurring this winter, because unfortunately we're still seeing a lot of like resistance to climbers enjoying this public park. So we probably will need additional support again this year with our many volunteers who helped remove an unbelievable amount of deadfall that was pushed into the gully in an attempt to block climbers from accessing the area. So I'm sure we'll have to resume that same work again. And I just want to give a shout out to everyone who was involved. You know who you are. Yeah, that was just unbelievable. It's like 8 cords of wood, I think, were pushed into the gully over the course of, you know, the fall and winter. I think last year, I think we went in there, or various people went in there maybe over 10 times to remove deadfall from the gully. So we do expect that to continue. And as most people know, a very handy crafts person went in with an angle grinder and decided to chop bolts off of most of the roots in Devil's Glen with some really sloppy handiwork. So that's unfortunate, but you know, so be aware if you are climbing there, like make sure you're keeping an eye out for where that first bolt is and just being safe. Like this person is clearly trying to put climber safety at risk, which is quite disturbing, but you know, you guys, you know how to keep yourselves safe. So just, you know, manage accordingly. Yeah. Did anyone else want to say anything about that?
No, I think the only thing I would add is I think you've done a great job of kind of framing what's occurring at Devil's Glen. I think the underscored desire here for the community is just to remain safe, be vigilant, exercise all of your, when we go out climbing, we exercise our safety checks. Let's just make sure that that includes the environment around us as well. Should you find yourself in a situation where you're seeing suspicious activity or you're being confronted, please reach out to, first of all, if it's of a serious nature, please contact 911. Not to alarm anybody, but this is something that we should all be aware of, and we should make sure that we're being safe when we're out there. In addition to that, if you do have any interactions that are of note, please reach out to us and keep us informed, because obviously we are trying to collect as much information and trying to collect as much information as we can moving forward, and hopefully see this type of behavior cease. The only other thing I wanted to add, Casey, is that in addition to those new no parking signs, I also noticed that there are Mylar and Loretta signs for the restaurant in the parking area. So if you haven't been there as a climber, I would recommend it. It's maybe not the fastest thing in the world, but it's certainly a great place to have, a lunch or a dinner on the way out. And they clearly have targeted climbers, so we love them for that.
Support them.
Yeah. I also want, like Casey kind of said this, but I want to make it explicit. Like, we don't want to discourage people from climbing at Devil's Glen. Like, it is not, the people who don't want us to climb there, they don't have the ability to say that. It's like public land, and you should go climb there if you want to climb there.
That's right.
Also go eat at the restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you. Okay, great. And then just two final updates that I got from Bill Barrett at the Ottawa ACC chapter, and Connor as well. So thank you very much for that. They told us that there's some really interesting new development that's occurred at Layte in Calabogie. So they've got a good number of apparently new sport climbs and some trad lines that have been resurrected there. Just note, like, they're quite new and a lot have seen little traffic, so tread carefully. Wear a helmet and be careful what you pull on. But it sounds like they've got some new, really new great lines there. So I'd check that out if you're trying to get out of, Ontario, or sorry, not Ontario, get out of the GTA, which can be quite busy at times, and get away from some of our access issues that we suffer from in this region. It sounds like it's open for enjoyment over at Lake Cliff, which is awesome. And then Waban Lake, I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. I'm hoping I did, but it's just past Calabogie. It's paddle access, so it's kind of like a cool adventure if you're looking for something a bit more unique. And I think if you follow the ACC Ottawa chapter, they actually have a couple updates about these cliffs, and then some other cliffs that are also in, like, just over the border in Quebec. So I think Bill and Connor, if you're on the chat and you want to provide some links in there, please do. I'm sure anyone would be willing to or interested to check them out. But yeah, that sounds like some kind of cool stuff that's going on in the eastern part of the province. So yeah, it's awesome. My sister lives out there, so I should actually head out that way at some point. Okay, so with that, I wanted to do one last thing, which is an intruder alert. For garlic mustard. So, we are seeing garlic mustard popping up in different areas, and this is like just a general, result of more traffic happening, like people hiking and whatnot. It's just a natural thing that occurs from people hiking around. And unfortunately, we kind of track these invasive species around as hikers, climbers, cyclists, etc. So it is something that we should keep an eye out for as climbers, because we're in a lot of these places and we can access places that sometimes other people aren't able to access. But we're also frequently in these places in a way that some other people are not, so for climbers, like we may see garlic mustard go through its 2 stages here. So this is like on the left side, you have the first year of life of garlic mustard, and then the second year. So you can see how the leaves kind of change shape. They grow into these kind of like stalks with white flowers on the top. So if you spot it, smell it and pull it. I came up with this, you guys. This is good, right? And then dispose of it in the garbage. So this is not something you can just like pull and throw into the brush. It's very robust and will spread very easily. So the idea is that if you spot it, so that you're ensuring you're not confusing it with something else, you can crush it in between your fingers. You'll get a very strong garlicky smell if it is in fact garlic mustard, in which case you can pull it. So make sure that you pull the full root out, because if you don't pull the full root and you just break the root, it can actually just continue to spread anyway. So your efforts will be, for naught basically. So, and then you'll want to take it with you and dispose of it in the garbage, which is exactly what we did when we saw some at Lion's Head this year. We just chucked it in the dumpster. So yeah, if you do see garlic mustard around any cliffs, now's a great time of year to do it, because you're not going to shake up a bunch of flowers off of the plant and spread them around. You can also do it in the spring if you see it then as well. So we encourage people to kind of get their hands on some. Thanks, Pat. I saw that. But yeah, get your hands on some garlic mustard. You can throw it out, or if you've got a really amazing recipe, then, do share it in the chat. I'm sure anyone would be intrigued.
Garlic pesto is a thing.
Garlic mustard pesto? That sounds really intense.
I put it in dishes too. It's best to get it.
Really?
That picture on the right before the flowers open up is the best time for it.
Oh, amazing. Okay. It sounds like heartburn waiting to happen, but maybe not.
It's a little bitter.
Okay. All right, cool. Oh,
Yeah.
Connor, I just want to say also, I'll draw people's attention to the chat. Connor McCarthy, thank you for that, has dropped some info in the chat about Wobbin Lake and Lake Cliff. So that's awesome. And I'll just take any more positives, oh yeah, no problem, Connor. I'll take any more positive feedback you have about this new slogan I've come up with. I'm going to be.
It's great. It's great. I was just going to say, so that's great. I hadn't, even running through this before, I hadn't noticed that you had the 2 pictures.
Yeah.
And so it's a biannual plant. So it does grow in sort of a 2-year cycle.
Yeah.
And so that's great that you've shown the sort of the 1 year and the 2 year.
Yeah. The first.
Photo.
Yeah, and that like first year, it's very like low. It just looks like ground cover in that first year. So they're almost like heart-shaped leaves, heart-shaped kind of leaves in that first year, and they're a little bit fatter and rounder, and then they get a little bit spikier as the plant ages. So yeah, so you'll be kind of looking low at first, and then it kind of gradually becomes taller and taller. So
yeah, I think this is great. I think in the future, I would love to see, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent. I haven't passed this by anybody on the board, but I think I'd love to in the future share a little bit more of this stuff, so that as climbers we can go and be a little bit more aware of the environment that we find ourselves in. And if we can help along the way, we all know that climbers are keen to pick up garbage, even if it's garbage that we ourselves as climbers have left behind on mistake. Finger tape is a classic one. We love to make the environment generally, better than what we found it. So, stay tuned. I think this is a great one to start with, because it is, a very primary concern for land managers. We have done in the past a garlic mustard pull with Conservation Halton, and I anticipate that we will do something like this with Ontario Parks, if we can organize that. And I think we can. And as individuals, we can certainly do our part to see these things and to pull them out before they get started.
Yeah. And, the other thing you can do is like brush your hiking, your approach shoes off, before and after you visit different areas, and, make sure you're doing it into the garbage or what have you, just to prevent the the spread. So yeah, but I wanted to include something like this. We thought that this would be great, to kind of have some of these reminders for the things that we can do. People often ask how they can get involved in the in the OAC, and this is something that anyone can do at any time when you're visiting a cliff, and it has, a great impact. So a positive impact. So, yeah, with that, I'll just leave it open for a few minutes just to see if there's any final questions. I'll just say thanks again. Like Connor, you posted some other, links to the Crag just for some of the Quebec side climbing that you have. That's near Ottawa as well. With 2 new Crags open there, which is great. But yeah, if there's any other questions, pop them in the chat. Otherwise, I think we're just about done. All right. I don't see anything else coming up. So with that, I'm going to end it there. And you can always reach out anytime to info@ontarioallianceofclimbers.ca if you have any questions, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks for writing this, Casey.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks for joining, everyone.
Bye.